So moving right along, we will go to action item number 1.
Would you state your name for the record? You solemnly swear that you're about to give us the truth and the truth or not?
Chairman, members of the board, good morning. I'm here to represent Stella Valdivia in her request to obtain approval of a family transfer division of land in the town of Manzano. The property is zoned village community preservation and will be served by community water. Therefore, in my understanding, this will allow the minimum lot size down to half acre. Mrs. Valdivia intends to give 3 parcels to her family members, to her children, and she's going to retain, at this point, lot M62A.
Do you have clarification yet which of the 2 boys are going to take which of the next
Yes. Land will be transferred as follows. Lot M50 will be transferred to the daughter Charisse. Lot M62B will be transferred to Chris. And 62C will be transferred to Dominic. And I have notarized and signed deeds that reflect that decision to transfer.
All right. Anything else?
That's pretty much it.
Okay, at this time then, I would like to give a chance for people that are in favor of this change a chance to speak. And if there are none, do we have anyone that is opposed to it? Hearing none of those. Steve?
Yeah, board members, there were a few corrections or things missing from the plat that Mr. Mingus has taken care of before the board meeting, but it was after you had your packages. And I draw your attention to this plat. He has made those corrections that were suggested on the red lines as far as, you know, a tie to a USGS monument and record and adjoining property owners information on the plat. But we were, and also the birth certificate for Dominic. He turned in that this morning, and you should have a copy of that as well. We're still waiting for a couple other documents here. As far as in the package, they're the new deeds to a couple of the children were missing. And so I haven't received those yet. And the family transfer affidavit that must be filed with the plat, there isn't a copy of that yet. And Mr. Dominguez has told me that he has that in the mail to Mrs. Valdivia. So our recommendation to the board is that that if you decide to approve this action, that it be on with the idea that it won't be approved or recorded until we have those missing documents in our file.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to ask any questions or bring up a point or anything? Sir?
I would just like to state that we do have the signed and notarized deeds, so that completes that part of their requirement. The family transfer affidavit, again, is being processed, and I should have it by the end of the week. So ultimately, what we're looking for is on the condition that Steve gets a chance to review those documents, then he can sign off at that point, and we can go forward with recording of the plat. So in essence, it's conditional approval. The condition being that these documents come to Steve and get his approval, and then we can move forward with recording the plat and the other documents that go along with it, the deeds, family transfer affidavit, and the plat.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
Thank you, sir. So if there is no further public discussion, we'll have questions from the table.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question on this map that you're showing. I noticed, looking around, there's a gentleman, Manuel Silva. He owns a lot of property around that area.
Yes.
Are there ways that these people can get into their property without going through this man's property, or is there
No.
easements there, or?
There's just an existing roadway that goes through Grant land and then through Mr. Silva's land. And it's my understanding that Mr. Silva and Stella are related in some way. And so it's been a road that's been used for years.
Yeah, regulations always, they have problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there is no documented easement. However, the road has been there for more years than I can count.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is that road, is that a public road? Is it maintained by the county?
No.
I would draw the board's attention, in his package, Mr. Dominguez had included a copy of the land grant map. This was done back in the 60s by a surveyor. It's not a recorded, it's purposes only, and this is generally what is used by surveyors and the assessors and county up in this particular land grant when we lack better information. But it does show that that roadway accessing the property has existed for a very long time. Mr. Thomas had done this, I believe, I don't have my dated one, but I believe it was in 1962.
Thank you, Steve. I have a question for our attorney, and that would have to do with that road. And not being familiar with all the laws, but I hear things every now and then. And how about a road that, like this one, that's been there for a long time? Is that landowner allowed to close that road if he wants to, or does he have to leave it open?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to give you kind of a traditional legal answer. It depends. It depends on the exact factual situation. There is the possibility of something called a prescriptive easement, where after a certain period of time, and there's notice of the activity, that there is an easement that the law will recognize. There's also a concept called adverse possession, that after so much time of using a piece of property, that with the notice of that use, that the true landowner can't dispute that those rights have been transferred over as well. So it is possible that the law would recognize an easement and would uphold an easement for access. But again, it would depend on the very particular facts that aren't before us here, at least that I haven't seen. Testimony as to how long it's been used and who knew and who uses it, and are there any agreements? Maybe there's a contract between the two, or maybe there was at one point. I cannot give you a definitive answer, but I can say that it is possible that an easement exists.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone else?
I just wanted to ask Adolfo to expand a little bit on that as far as state regulations regarding properties being landlocked.
There is a concept that you do not want to landlock properties.
It's illegal.
It's illegal to do so, but if there's one that already exists, then that's the condition that it comes to you in that condition, and that's the condition it's in. And usually those end up going to a legal battle among those property owners to sort it out. That's for a judge to take in the evidence and make the determination about whether or not there's it is in fact illegal or legal.
Red?
I just got a few things. How much documentation are we waiting on? How many pieces?
Well, it was just, there was two of the deeds conveying from Miss Valdivia to two of the boys that were missing from the package. And Mr. Dominguez says he has those with him. But the other was the family transfer affidavit that must be filed at the same time the plat is. And that is it. With just those documents.
What I have a problem with is those not being there. It's like I guess all the ducks ought to be lined up in a row. And then the other, I come from a rural area in Kansas, and I've seen some of this dispute over roads. I think there ought to be some type of document drawn up between for a permanent easement, if that's possible, to avoid conflicts down the road. I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not, but.
Well, that wouldn't be a question for me. That would be a stipulation between the landowners there and a stipulation of the board if they wanted to, if they agreed with you on that, to Mr. Dominguez on this application that, you know, basically approval of this would be delayed until those conditions were met.
That's what I make a motion.
You know, currently right now, outside of the road issue, as far as the documents are concerned, that would, you know, if that's the board's decision to approve based on the stipulation that those documents have been reviewed by P&Z before the plat can be recorded, you know, that, you know, basically what Mr. Dominguez has asked for this morning.
Yeah, everybody ought to have everything before we do it.
So that there would be a legal easement.
Yes, sir.
So I would have a question of our applicant. Do you think that would be feasible?
Yeah, it would be feasible after talking with Mr. Silva. He's verbally agreed that you know, the road has been there forever. They didn't want to go that route for the simple reason that you know, we'd have to create documents, we'd have to do additional field work, additional survey map, to create the easement, and of course, that would mean additional cost for Mrs. Valdivia. So, in essence, Mr. Silva said, we don't need to do that, the road's been there forever, but if the board is saying that you feel more comfortable with a documented easement, you know, I agree. It would benefit Mrs. Valdivia that there would be a documented easement, that way there's no question down the line, and I suggested that. So at this point, it can be done. It's just a question of money, and, you know, I can work with Mrs. Valdivia and Mr. Silva in that area.
It seems that would make it pretty clear cut that way. Also, in case this gentleman that has the property that the road goes through were to sell his property, then somebody else would own it, and they might have something to say about it. Does that make sense to council?
Yes, me too.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I guess I have a question. Would the division create a landlocked parcel?
No, there's existing easement on the west side. And so the entire property can be accessed by that easement. It's undocumented, but it's well defined in that the existing reassessment map shows it as under no one in particular's ownership.
So it's like that would be an easement over grant land?
Correct.
So it would be, that's basically common land, and that on the western side there is access?
Yes.
And the parcels that would be subdivided they wouldn't have to go over each other to that?
At this point, yes. Because there is a portion of undocumented easement that serves two lots on the southeasterly portion of the land division that are accessed by this road that goes through Mr. First it comes through.
Let me back up. So my first question was, will this land division create a landlocked parcel? And you said no, because there's access on the western side.
Right.
Will all of the parcels have access to the western side?
If we create an easement on the plat to serve those back lots.
Okay, so that would be a certain way to make sure that there would always be access to at least that western access,
Yes.
regardless of what happens on the other gentleman's property.
Correct.
Okay.
Just for clarity, for the record, are you talking about this one
Yes.
here or this?
This one. This is the existing access through common land. And then this one here goes through Mr. Silva's land. And
So-
then again, this most southerly easement goes through grant land to this one here.
So, gentlemen, if you look at the plat that Mr. Dominguez has submitted, that is the roadway that comes on the south side of lot M50 into the west side of M62A. And then, if that, you would have to make an easement coming across 62A.
Correct.
To see.
Yeah, we would have to create it.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, after some discussion with Mr. Silva and Mrs. Valdivia, they both agree that this existing roadway could be documented as an easement. And so it's just going to take a little bit more work.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think that would be the way to make sure you would avoid creating the possibility of landlocked parcels. So
Yeah.
because it sounds like you have at least two options
Sure.
to document and record this division without having any possibility of landlocking anything.
The other way is to create an easement across 62A and B to get to 62C.
Correct.
And,
Correct, those would be, so the two ways would be to get an easement across Mr. Silva's land, or to create an easement within this very plat for
correct,
B and C to get through A.
correct. So we'll work it out. We'll work it out. We'll come back at the next meeting with all the documents, all our ducks in a row, and ask for approval at that time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid problems down the road.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm thinking at this time, perhaps a motion to table would be the right thing to do. Do I hear such a motion?
I motion that we table.
I second the motion.
Any more discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carried, and it'll be tabled. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.